Bishop, you're muted.
There we go. All right. Great day, everyone. We're getting off the ground. Welcome to Spirit in Mind, where we are committed to discussing current affairs with faith and mental health perspectives. I am Bishop Guy Robinson, and Dr. Shepherd is, of course, my colleague and co-host with us today. Absent from us today is our engineer, Minister Kat Henderson, whom we already miss dearly. Uh, but we are making it work to the glory of God. Dr. Shepherd, good day. How are you?
I'm all right, Bishop. How are you, sir?
I'm, I'm doing all right for a de facto engineer.
Yes, sir. A good day to everyone out there. And it's good to be once again on Spirit in Mind, 3 time zones behind. And just to let people know that people do watch in California. And I'm one of those persons who's in California today, but yet still here as a co-host for Spirit in Mind. So thankful for those who are already commenting and joining us. Elaine Copman, Catherine Jones, Charlotte Green, Kimberly Evans, Shirley Vaughn, Linda Farrar. So grateful that you all are out there. Please share this particular video and podcast with your neighbors, with your friends, with your networks. I tell people all the time that there's information that will be shared that could potentially change people's lives. So thank you for doing what you do. Yes, sir, Bishop.
Absolutely. I echo that. And again, we welcome you. And please, again, let someone know. We're going to be taking a break of the Spirit in Mind to do some academic work and some preparation for a new season. We're excited about a new season we're going to be bringing in the fall. And so we got a little writing we want to do, a little studying we want to do, and some research we want to do. And so, of course, our previous episodes will still be up on streaming and all of our various platforms, which we would definitely put up if our engineer were here, but we invite you to do that. Please stay in touch. You can go to our VidFlex page. You can go to our streaming social media pages, and you can get caught up in all those ways. I might be able to list a little bit. You can contact Dr. Shepherd. Look at there. Dr. Shepherd, you want to go over your contact information?
Yes, sir. So you can reach me at those different sites or points of contact, really. And I'll do my best to get back to you as soon as possible. People do reach out. So if there's some persons that are in need of direct care services, mental health care services, I can hopefully point you in the right direction. So please do that.
Absolutely. And please reach out to me. We look forward to hearing from you. We appreciate the dialogue. And actually, again, we'll be doing research and writing, and preparation, and think tank gathering for a new season of Spirit in Mind. We would love to hear any subjects from you and suggestions for things you would like for us to cover. So please reach out to us, and we look forward to it. And again, you'll be able to catch up on all the episodes. Look here, I found it by going to Spirit in Mind and our VidFlex TV location. So any of those means can keep you connected. And again, we want to see you very soon. And let's stay connected. Dr. Shepherd, again, even during the summer, we're looking at and a lot of talk about being at the end of the tunnel. So are there any words for the summer that our Spirit in Mind family should be mindful of in terms of the medical community?
Absolutely, Bishop. Unfortunately, we're not at the end of the tunnel.
Yeah.
That really is the word. Truthfully, we may be in the middle of it, but we're not at the end of it, you all. I just did a show. If you go back and look at my personal Facebook page, I just did a show with another physician just yesterday on, is it okay to breathe a sigh of relief? That was the question. Is it okay for us to finally breathe a sigh of relief as we have gone through these tumultuous months of the pandemic. Unfortunately, the answer is no. It's not okay to breathe a sigh of relief just yet. There are many people out there, Bishop. Still, 50% of the population is unvaccinated. And a lot of those people look like me and you. They are Black, brown, minorities, even within the state of Maryland, even within our city of Baltimore, where we are from right now. People are not vaccinated.
Right.
Unfortunately, there is a variant called the Delta variant that is out there. And not just the Delta variant, it now has a new mutant called the Delta Plus variant. And why are mutants something that is important to know is because when a virus mutates, it becomes more potent and can even become more contagious. So what does that mean? It means that it takes less concentration of that virus to then get you sick. This is basically what it means. So for those who are unvaccinated, there are variants out there now that it used to take more of the virus to get you sick. Now it takes less. It's time to get vaccinated. I know there's still a lot of hesitancy. I was even speaking with some patients and families of mine this past week, and they said, well, Dr. Shepherd, people die from the vaccine. And I just told them simply, there has not been any credible evidence of a person dying from taking the COVID-19 vaccine. And so I want people just to understand that, yes, you will read things in the internet. You will see things in the internet. But let me tell you, there is no license as to what is posted on social media or the internet. Please know that there is no governing body that is overseeing what goes on there. Why is that important, Dr. Shepherd? Because I, as a physician, I am governed by a governing body. I cannot make statements and think that I can get away with making false claims. Case in point, there's one of the physicians. I just learned this yesterday. You should really go back and look at that broadcast. That one of the physicians who was on President Trump's task force, COVID-19 task force, is being investigated by the Board of Physicians right now and is potentially going to have his license stripped for making false claims. Why is that important? Because we as physicians are not out here to tell you our lies. We're not out here to tell you something that you want to hear. We're here to make sure that people make informed decisions. I can't tell you what to do. You choose that. But one thing that I will do is give you an informed answer with evidence. Be careful what you read on the internet. People say a lot of stuff. There's no governing body. And so with that said, I want to make sure that you're making an informed decision. So the Delta variant is out there. You still need to be careful where you're going, where unvaccinated people are at, and you still need to be wearing your mask. Even as I travel, and this is my last point, even as I travel, I still have to wear a mask, even though I've been vaccinated since February. You still have to wear a mask on the plane. You still have to wear a mask in certain stores. And so you're good, doctor. No, you need to make sure you still wear a mask because I don't want to infect somebody else. I could carry the virus and then carry it to people who are unvaccinated and they get sick. So just some words of wisdom we need to be careful of.
Yeah. Very, 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 very on point. And that's why I phrased it that way, because that has become the unofficial, very much unofficial, as you just noted, but the common dialogue and the common metaphor with the light and the tunnel and the end. And so even you discussed it in another forum yesterday, because so many people are using that that analogy with regards to where we are, and it's influencing. And so I hear you reiterating, along with many others, the importance of becoming or getting vaccinated, and some of that news and conspiracy theories and concerns are still very much out there. My church was actually very much involved in a vaccination site, and so just doing our regular work in the community, just grassroots efforts and conversations, getting persons involved or vaccinated. The kinds of dialogue that we had and pushback was really significant. And so even our Spirit in Mind family, we might want to take a minute to address a very important question. What is the point of the vaccine? Dr. Shepard?
Well, absolutely. Vaccine. There's a very significant point. So thank you, Miss Julia Thuston. She's in Kansas, Bishop, just so you know. So we got people, again, all over the nation watching. The point of vaccine is so that you don't die from the virus, period. The point of vaccine is for us to mitigate the number of hospitalizations and the deaths that occur with this virus. This virus is deadly. Is 10 times deadlier than the flu. And that's why we have over 600,000 people who have died. And that's just what's been accounted for. Let me tell you, there are a number of deaths that have been unidentifiable that were probably caused by the coronavirus. So even when they give the number out of 600,000+ people, that number is not accurate. There are going to be more to add on to that. So the point of the vaccine is clear. It is to prevent hospitalizations and to prevent deaths. Just like the flu vaccine. The flu vaccine does not necessarily prevent you from getting the flu. It is to prevent the side effects and the things that occur with the flu. Let me say this real interesting enough, Bishop. So I hear some people out there say, well, the health providers, the doctors, they're not getting the vaccine, so I don't need to get it. Let me tell you something, okay? There's never been 100% of the physicians and employers who work in a hospital who get the vaccine, okay? And there never will be. I'm just going to tell you. That's been an ongoing. It's an old debate, so we might as well kill it now. It's nothing new, all right? You're not telling us anything that we didn't know. But let me tell you, if you plan to work in a hospital, and I've worked in hospitals, you will get the vaccine. Otherwise, you will not work in that hospital. It's clear as day. And they have that right and they have that ability to do that. Why? Because when you go to a hospital, there are germs, there are infections, there are things that live there that don't live anywhere else because of the infectious diseases that occur when people are coming in. When you come to the hospital, there's sick people there. So you need to make sure that you yourself are kept together. I struggle with those people who down in Texas decided not to get vaccinated. There's 100 and some people who now don't have a job because they refuse to get vaccinated. I struggle with, what their reasoning was. And again, I don't know them, so I'm sensitive to their stance. However, if I was that point person in that hospital, I would have tried to convince them, because you cannot work in a hospital and think you're okay and be exposed to all the different germs, infections, virus, bacteria that live there. We have to have a standard. And if we hold to that standard, then we just let everything go. And unfortunately, we have people, even in my own profession, who choose not to live to that standard. That's okay. We in Spirit and Mind. There's some people who choose not to live with the standard of holiness. Okay. Right. In church. All right. I'll leave that alone. But I'm just saying, just know that what you're coming up with, all these things, there's nothing new. You're not bothering me. But it still has to be a standard, and we have to make sure that standards uphold.
Yeah. So, and that's why we raised it. And it's certainly not our subject, and yet it is related. This is usually our opening. But because it is such a part of the national discourse right now, and it is a matter of endurance, it appears. I was reading some research from a group of psychologists that have labeled something compassion fatigue. I'm sorry, not compassion fatigue, but vaccine fatigue, pandemic fatigue. I'm sorry, pandemic fatigue, pandemic fatigue, where people are just tired of enduring.
Yeah.
And so I'm just tired of the mask, tired of this. And it's showing up in our country in terms of, if you will, a national psyche, if you will, on flights. And there's been conversations, and some airlines are taking steps and concerns about what they call unruly passengers who are pushing back against mask wearing. Some have stopped offering alcoholic options because the inebriation combined with the pandemic fatigue is acting out on flights. And so it certainly is very real. You go into different stores and across county lines. There's the stigma, the social stigma that some sociologists are studying. If you wear a mask, then the people who are maskless are kind of staring you down, or you feel as if they are. And if you're not wearing a mask, the people who are masked are staring you down. So there's something going on in our national collective psyche with regards to this. And so while we didn't certainly intend to make this our subject, it is certainly subject relevant. Yes. Because it is a matter of endurance when we're using metaphors like tunnels and distance. And the question is, have we finished this race? Have we finished this journey? And the message from you and other medical professionals is certainly clear. Changing that from the end of the tunnel to the middle of the tunnel is certainly an endurance metaphor. And so that's why we've stayed here for a little while longer than we usually do. But Dr. Shepherd, any things from our timeline or any other things on this as we continue before we move forward?
Yeah, just real quick question. So Julia also asked, how do you carry it? Because the virus is carried through normally through your nose or on your hands. So those are the 2 points on your body that typically help to spread the virus. So again, you can be inoculated with the vaccine so that the virus does not affect you. But there's so many times that people carry stuff, and yet the other person who gets it worse than what you had. There's so much revelation even in that. So you really have to be careful what you're carrying, and know and be sensitive enough that you carry things that may not affect you, but will affect others. That's why we have to know that we are our brother's keeper, our sister's keeper. And absolutely, I want them to get the vaccine. I put my life on the line every time I go to, go to see patients. So I went to go get the vaccine. So yes, I want nurses. I want all medical professionals to go get the vaccine. We all put our lives on the line. Some are more riskier than others, but it's time to get the vaccine. That's how we are able to come out of certain pandemics such as this. Mm-hmm. All right.
We've been talking about endurance, and again, this is how we are closing out this season. But we've been talking about endurance, and we've listed a number of things in terms of how to endure. And today we're going to wrap up with them. But there's been a couple of things we might be able to put up. Yes, we talked about envisioning success. That means to endure it. You got to see it before you see it. And so to envision yourself completing school, or completing your studies, or completing whatever assignment is yours for this season, whatever project you're doing around the house. Even as we've just discussed, this process of combating a fatigue pandemic is certainly testing our endurance. But you got to envision success. 2, engage the mind. Again, we talked about being able to keep your mind on things that help you finish the race, and sometimes even to think on something else, like the person who watches a video or listens to music while they run to help the time pass. Engage your mind on positive things. 3, encourage yourself, that's self-talk, what we speak to ourselves. Number 4, pace yourself. Number 5 is check your friends. We talked about that. You need friends that will speak of God and others what is right. Number 6, we talked about last week in terms of checking your faith. And then today we want to talk about appreciating good coaching. And that's where we left off last week. And Dr. Shepherd, what's the importance of good coaching?
Oh, Lord.
Yeah, I'll tell you what comes to mind for me.
Yeah, go ahead, sir.
Biblically, 2 examples that come to mind, just 2 off the top, is one is Jethro, the father-in-law of Moses. The Bible says in, I believe, Exodus 18, that Jethro, he says something very powerful to Moses. He is, of course, his father-in-law. And the Bible says that Moses is around the mountain, and here comes Jethro, and he's bringing his family to him. And the Bible says that Moses was sitting judging the people, and he stood before them from morning till evening. This is what the scripture said, all day long. And Jethro coached him. It says in Exodus 18:17, I believe it says, so Moses, his father-in-law, said to him, the thing that you do is not good. Listen to this coaching. He said, both you and these people who are with you will surely wear yourselves out. Mm-hmm. We just said that one of the keys to endurance is being able to pace yourself.
That's right.
So listen to Jethro's counsel. He said, you and the people, you and those you think you're going to help, are going to wear each other out because this thing is too much. In verse 19, he says, listen now to my voice, and I will give you counsel, and God will be with you. That's a good coach, y'all. And my New Testament example is, and then Dr. Shepherd, take us from here, but my New Testament example is Titus 2. In Titus 2, and again, you could take notes to our Spirit of Mind family. I'm really missing our engineer today, but Titus 2 says, speak the things which are proper for sound doctrine. This is the Pauline pastoral epistles advice to Titus. Speak the things which are proper for sound doctrine. And we did a lot of conversation previously about sound doctrine. It says you got to speak sound. You need somebody who will speak sound doctrine. And he goes into verse 2 to say that the older men be sober, reverent, temperate, sound in faith, in love, in patience, and the older women likewise, which means we need mentors who will teach us sound doctrine, who will coach us in sound doctrine, to admonish the young women to love. And it goes on to say, and we will teach each other how to be temperate, not to be hot-headed, explosive, and acting off of our passions with no context of greater purpose. And so it's just sound doctrine. And we talked a lot again about what that was, but your coach matters in life and in ministry. So Dr. Shepherd, I'll say a little more, but please help me exegete this text and take us from here.
Yeah, thank you, Bishop. Those are wonderful examples in the Bible. One of the things that I did in my preparation for today, knowing that we're going to talk about good coaching, was I went and looked up the criteria of what makes a coach of the year. What is it that makes a successful coach? What is it that makes a good coach? And so I already put out in the comments, I want you all to let us know what are some of the qualifications that you think make a good coach. Here are some of the things that came to mind, and I'm sure we will begin to pull apart some of these criteria because even as Bishop just gave an example of Jethro, these are some of the things that we need to know. I can just, for instance, before I get into the qualifications, a coach is one who knows how to be able to pull somebody in when they need to be pulled in. I just thought about that as you were mentioning with Jethro, telling the people that, or telling Moses in particular, that these people will wear you out. You may have all the energy, all the talent, even all the skill as a Michael Jordan, but you need a Phil Jackson to come along and to say, it's time to sit out. It's time to be able to come out of the game so you can rest. We need to have people in our lives like that, because if you don't, you'll burn out. You can't always excel at a certain pace every single day. Uh,
Yeah.
that's not how our bodies were made. That's not how God made us. And so I just wanted to put that out at the very beginning of what I'm going to share today. Here are just some of the qualifications and some of the attributes, if you would. Coach of the year would be somebody who is positive, enthusiastic, supporting, trusting, focused, goal oriented, knowledgeable, observant, respectful, patient, and a clear communicator. That last one really hits me because so many times we have people who are over us, who are our supervisors, who are even our leaders in ministry, but they're not good communicators. It's difficult to understand what they're trying to tell us. It's difficult to understand how to be able to move forward in the responsibilities given because there is a gap in communication. And so we want to make sure that if we're in that leadership of coaching and vice versa, you need to let your coach know what you need from that person.
Yeah.
This is a two-way street, you all. Sometimes we forget that. You have to share with your coach what are the things that you need from that person to be able to help you to maintain, to be able to help you to endure. Let's not forget that is the purpose of this series. The purpose of the series is to help us to sustain, to help us to have the power to endure. Remember what endure means: to remain firm in the midst of suffering or misfortune without yielding. So
Right.
that coach is there to help you to push forward. So those attributes are so key. Um, Let me just tell you a little bit about some of the responsibilities, and then we'll go further with Bishop. Some of the responsibilities of the coach is teaching relevant skills, tactics, and techniques. Wow, that's the pop. That is what we need. How are you going to be able to endure when you can't get taught things that are relevant in your skill sets, tactics, and techniques? Then they are to monitor and enhance performance by providing tuition. Well, what's tuition? Financial support. Hello. I'll leave that alone. Your coach needs to invest in you. Oh my Lord, I will step on some toes here. How you gonna be my coach and you don't invest in me? All right. Encouragement. Yes, yes, yes. Yeah, I said it. I might have to come back to that one, Bishop, but that bothers me. If I'm going to be coaching you, then I need to be able to show some type of sign that I'm invested in you, and that means money. That means time, encouragement, and constructive feedback. So those two responsibilities I gave. Number one, teaching relevant skills, tactics, and techniques. Number two, monitoring and enhancing performance by providing tuition, encouragement, and constructive feedback. Number three, identifying strengths and weaknesses. Number four, advising about health and lifestyle issues. So your coach is not just concerned about your performance on the field or on the floor. They're concerned about your whole man. They're concerned about your health. They notice when you're limping. Oh, no, I got to stay in the game. No, you need to go somewhere and sit down, because if we don't, you're going to have a further injury.
Yeah.
Ooh, Jesus. Man, I think about so many times when coaches could have pulled somebody out of a game, but they allowed somebody to continue on and didn't say anything, and then they end up with a disaster and a worse injury that could have been prevented. That's why we got to have a good coach. You can't endure some things if you don't know when to be able to come on out of something. All right, last one. Actually, I'm sorry, three more. Developing training programs. All right. Developing training programs, undertaking administrative tasks. All right. And the last one is to assist with promotion and development. Your coach should be there to help push you further, not to always, well, I'm the coach, I'm the one. Your coach should be able to say, this is my star player. This is my person who I invested in. I trust him. Again, that's an area where we have to continue to be able to really do better in, because sometimes we have people who are not secure themselves. A coach is secure. The coach knows that they can't go out and play as well as the other person, but they understand their role and they understand the other person's role and will promote and will help develop that person and push them forward. That's how we endure.
Yeah, absolutely. This is good, and so having a good coach, and hopefully you'll appreciate good coaching because it's so critical to endurance. And there's a group that counsels and gives a lot of advice to colleges and systems, information systems, and those. Let's talk about different kinds of coaching. Let's talk about mentoring, let's talk about parenting, and then let's talk about pastoring as extensions of coaching. Mentoring stages. I tried to get this up and made a mistake a little while ago, but experts say that there are 4 stages, or that mentoring can be thought of in 4 stages: preparation, negotiation, maturation, and termination. Those 4 areas, which pretty much all of which Dr. Shepherd just touched on. But mentoring is someone to walk us through that, or to coach us through a particular set or a course that we have to finish in what way. Preparation is that stage of developing mutual interest. That stage of do I have sincere interest in helping this person? Is this person my mentor? And are we compatible? It's almost like the intake sessions of a counseling session. Do we click? Do we have chemistry? Can we work together? That's the preparation stage. Negotiation is saying, okay, what are your expectations? Because you want a relationship to go south, let it have different expectations that are imposed upon each other without communication.
Absolutely.
And you have a recipe for potential confusion, because we have different expectations and we're assuming that the other is going to be that. And so that negotiation piece is so very important, to say, listen, this is what we're going to agree to do. You want me to help you as a coach with your physical fitness. You want me to help you to coach you through a particular academic course. You want me to coach you through a particular stage or phase in life. Then this is what this entails. And then maturation is the process of having, if you have a mentor, there are measurable goals that should be met over time with regular feedback, to say, hey, by this time you should be doing a 10-minute mile. I'm your running coach. Are you there or are you not? If you're not, this is what we need to do better. This is what is working well. This is what is not working. If you're going to run this marathon, by now you need to be at this point. If you're going to recover from this to your maximum capacity, this is what needs to be done. If you're going to reach your goal, then this is where you should be by now. And you're either here or you're not. And what can I do to help you to get to your next goal or next measuring or growth point? All of that is in the maturation stage. That may even include referral. Hey, I got somebody, you need to talk to this person for 2-3 days. I'm still your mentor, but this is an area in which you need a little more extra development. So all of that is in maturation. And then termination, closure. How do we end once we reach our goal? that is a part of it as well. And so that's just the recommendations of some mentoring groups. So Dr. Shepherd, I don't know if you want to add in there if that triggers anything, but the coaching, mentoring, and then there's parenting. Parenting, but we know therapeutically that the most important social enclave and group that is so important to our development is that familial group, that family. And I want to borrow a little bit just in terms of what does a good coaching look like. And so we're talking about some distinctions between coaching, and then we're talking about mentoring, if you want to use that synonymously. And then we're talking about parenting. I want to kind of touch on Ellen Galinsky's 6-stage model for parenting. And so there's first the image making stage. That's where before we have a child, our image of what parenting will look like. And that's so very important. I might even say pastorally, because the language of faith is familial. And we use the language of calling each other sons and daughters, or we say we want sons and daughters. We have an image, an imago of what that looks like. And so it's so important to have these conversations so that we don't have projections that are either unrealistic or the other party is incapable of meeting. And so that's why I'm using this model as well, because sometimes we, say, this is my spiritual father, and we have a particular image of what fathering looks like, which may not look like the same image of what the father figure imagines sonship or daughtership to look like.
Absolutely.
And if those things aren't engaged in conversation intentionally, then they can be explosive in a harmful way. And so there's the image making stage. And then staying with Galinsky's model, there is the nurturing stage, or if you are, or the attachment stage, where a good coach is like a parent providing you with the essential nutrients that we need, the sound doctrine, the role modeling, and everything that nurtures us. Don't always feel good to us, but it can be good for us. Then there's the authority stage. And that's so very important to me, Dr. Shepherd, because there comes a time. That's the toddler stage, when the toddler's running around by Galinsky's model, and sometimes the parent has to say, no, you can't do that. And if we got good coaching at some point is gonna say, no, you can't do that. No. Just no. Right. Don't do that. And that there are rules. And it's at that moment, and if you apply that to pastoring, there's a moment when you realize that pastoring is not just nurturing through preaching, but it is also authority through accountability and correction. And so that's when you realize at a moment, and that's when my mama used to say, I'm not your friend.
Right.
and I'm nurturing you, but I'm not your friend. Right. That's when those lines of authority become very clear. I don't want to go on to that, but there's other stages. There's the interpretive stage, where you begin to give a little bit of helping the child to interpret experience. There's the interdependent stage, where you give them a little more liberty. Now you got a driver's license, you got a car, you're going out, you're learning some things on your own. And then eventually there's the departure stage in Galinsky's model. So again, you're grown. Hopefully I've equipped you with everything you need to go from here. And all those can be signs of a good coach in the mentoring sense, in the parental sense, and then finally in the pastoral sense. Lifeway does some great work that puts, and so there, I put a few of those there: image, nurturing, authority, just to get us started, so you can just kind of have some ideas of what good coaching looks like. It's not all ego stroking. Mentoring is not all marketing agent. The role of a marketing agent is to only highlight our assets. That's marketing. But the role of a mentor is to nurture and to challenge. And so they're very important. Dr. Shepherd, please feel free to step here, and then I'll get to the pastoral one last.
Yeah, thank you. Something just struck me as you were talking about the image. Sometimes a coach can have an image of you that you don't have of yourself.
Yes.
And that is so important. And I see that sometimes, even when you go to see your physician, sometimes you go to see other people, and you struggle with trying to assist or help someone or even provide treatment because the image that they have of themselves and what you have, they just don't match up. And as far as a coach, that is so important. You help develop them to be able to see what you see inside of them. If you would just use even as the analogy of Jesus being our coach, he wants the best for us. He continues to talk about how he sees us as the head and not the tail. The scriptures remind us that we are fearfully and wonderfully made. And so many times we have such an image of ourselves because of what may have occurred that our coach doesn't see. So that's why, again, it's important to have good coaching in order to be able to endure. Bishop, I was just looking at these 3 qualifications also that make a successful coach. So you can have a coach, but that coach may not be successful. There's been some bad coaches. There's coaches out there who, they're in the game, but they don't win. They don't, their teams are not at the head. And sometimes it's because they don't have the right players. Or you can even have the right players with all the star talent, but the wrong coach. And guess what happens then? They don't win. So here are some of the things 3 things that make a successful coach. Number 1 is congruence. Congruence is the ability or the quality of agreeing. There's some people who are just non-agreeable. Those are some difficult people to work with, Bishop. When you have a coach that just disagreeable all the time, that's hard to endure that. It's hard to be able to maintain when you can't find something to agree upon. I hate that statement, well, we agree to disagree. I don't know who came up with that statement, but I don't utilize that statement too often, if not at all. Because sometimes it's like, well, okay, people just kind of use it as an easy out. Well, we're just going to agree to disagree. Well, okay, I get it, but yeah, we need to be able to agree upon something to be able to move forward. And that's how you work together. If you're going to have a coach, that, like you said earlier, how are you going to have someone working with you and your goals are different? Your objectives are different. So congruence is very important. Number 2, an unconditional positive regard for the coachee. Wow. Unconditional positive regard for the coachee. What does that mean? You must mean that, all right, I was looking at some of our comments. I was just see what people are saying. It must mean that you have to say something positive to the person regardless of how bad they may have performed. You still find something good. It's unconditional. That's what parenting is about. When I worked with so many families, I remember very clearly recently, a parent was she was in my office just fussing at the child. Just going to town. And I just said, hold on one second. Let's look at your child. Like, the child is trying her best. She's actually doing better in school. The parents like, well, I know that, but she still ain't got her, just with all that. I said, hold up. When was the last time that you said something positive to your child? Silence. It broke her down. And that was when we were able to finally make a connection in the treatment of this child because the parent who was the coach, she couldn't say anything. At least it took a third party to help her understand everything she keeps saying is negative. And one of the things we have to understand is in negativity, if that's what you're going to at least acknowledge me for, I'm going to keep on doing it because at least I'm going to get the attention. I tell people all the time, there's no such thing as positive or negative attention. It's just people just want attention. And if it comes because of the negative things I do, then I'm going to continue to do this. So we must make sure that our positive regard is unconditional. And then number 3 is empathy. We have to be able to relate. We have to be able to say, hey, I feel what you're feeling. These are the things that make a person a successful coach. Congruence, agreeability, unconditional positive regard, and then empathy. These are the things that we need to be looking for, even in our pastors. And I know, Bishop, you're going to go further in that.
Yeah, absolutely. And I just wanted to make sure we get those in the, missing our administrative, but I want to make sure we get those: congruence, agreeability, unconditional positive regard, and empathy. And I'll add, and that's why we're trying to see even the congruence between this mentoring, pastoring, coaching kinds of parallels, because I didn't have time to put them up, but the first 3 stages of parenting are about, image. That's my preconceived notions. And that's why we have to talk about those. And then there is this balance of nurturing, which means affirming. And as one of our family members put in the chat line, celebrating small wins and empowering confidence. And at the same time, being figures of authority that draw lines and challenge and accountability. But the last 3 stages of parenting move towards empowering a person towards independence. And so that's so very important that they leave the process as healthy and whole as possible, and not broken or feeling in a bad place in terms of esteem. So that successful coaching is building up a person ultimately, and even the criticism is constructive, meant to build and meant to go somewhere, so that we leave with healthy, secure attachments, if you will. And so those things are just so very important. And in many ways, these are some of the aspects of experiencing working as a pastor, even because some of these things, pastoring is a sort of unique combination of all of these things. It has parental moments, and particularly when you read Pauline epistles, Paul is very parental in some of his language in scripture. And so even the revelation of God as Father and Son. And so there's some very strong familial language in our faith. So certainly pastoring has some elements of that, certainly has elements of coaching, certainly has elements of mentoring. And so pastoring, Lifeway Research says that stages of pastoring are the honeymoon stage.
Oh, Lord.
That's when both pastor and parishioner have a blank slate, and they enter into the relationship hoping and believing the best about each other. Sometimes that can even be a moment of idealization, which any of you that talk the language of therapy know that can quickly become devaluation. But there's the honeymoon stage where we're happy, everything is wonderful in this relationship as pastor and parishioners, or pastor and parishioner. And then stage 2 is conflicts and challenges. Conflicts and challenges is when we see each other's humanity, if you will. where each party discovers the imperfections in the other, real or perceived or projected. And they begin to have differences. This is the moment when pastor may see something very different, or may even ask you to come in for a moment, or you may see something, just like you may see in your coach, just like you may see in your drill sergeant in the military. And so the stage 2 is conflicts and challenges, which leads to stage 3 in this model, which is the crossroads. The crossroads area is how I navigate now my response to having seen the imperfections, or having been held accountable, or having been challenged. If you want to put it in the moment of church, in some context, it's the moment when, as parishioner, I see Moses strike the rock instead of speak to the rock. Or it's the moment as pastor when you feel like this person is just stiff-necked. Or the moment when you realize that the person who you enjoy their preaching has now made it clear that you're not just your preacher, they are your pastor. There is a difference. And so as the pastoring begins to put in all of that mentoring and coaching and all those other things. And so that's the crossroads. What am I going to do now from here? And then stage 4 is the harvest. The harvest in that relationship depends entirely on what we do at the crossroads. Because Galatians put it, whatsoever a person soweth, that shall he also reap. And so if we take good and godly counsel, even when it's kind of irritating, sort of like if the coach says you could do one more lap, let me push you just a little bit. You've been doing 3 laps for 2 months. Let me push you to 4. If you take that advice, you'll reap a harvest. If you don't take that advice, you'll reap a harvest. And the pastor says, this is what I feel you should do. There's, based upon the word of God, where you're going, I would recommend this. If you take that in stride, there's a harvest. If you don't, there's a harvest. The honeymoon, the conflicts and challenges, the crossroads, and the harvest. And that can certainly be encyclical from that point on. But hopefully these parallels are giving an idea of what we're trying to establish, some sense or equip some tools that you can have some criteria for what good coaching would look like for you. That's basically taking all of these contexts and perspectives, and some from research and some from experience, taking all these in mind, that you would have some sense of what good coaching looks like in whatever process you need to endure, overcome, and hopefully win.
Absolutely. I'm just going to answer a couple questions, and then I think we're just about at the end of the show. Dr. Hayes is asking, can a person be a mentor from different cultural backgrounds? Absolutely. I would encourage that, especially depending on what you're trying to achieve. I dare not just read or try to learn from Black physicians. That would limit my ability to take care of all people. God has not gifted me just to take care of Black people. He's gifted me to take care of all people. His word, whether it be through medicine or through the preached word, is for all people. So absolutely and I look for mentors and other cultural backgrounds, because what it does, it helps me to be able to relate better to those persons. And so that's what a coach does. Again, it's part of having that the ability to agree, the congruence. There are things that we can find in different cultures that align with where our culture that we were raised in. I've always said this, and we see it stated over and over. There is more that we agree upon than we disagree upon. And so we want to make sure that we don't just exclude or try to be so selective that we can only receive from from certain people. And that's even within the body of Christ. We got to be careful about that. If you really want to be expansive and want to be able to grow, then you have to be able to receive from different cultural backgrounds. You figure out what those things are that you need, and then you don't utilize other things that you don't need. So again, that's on your terms. So hopefully that answered that question, Doctor.
I agree. In fact, I teach that on campus. That's my class, is cultural competence. I totally agree with that. That exposure and being able to operate in the world with cultural competence. I know we're reaching the last minute of Spirit in Mind, and Dr. Shepard, I don't know if you want to answer any other questions, or here's a joke: if you just looks like on some things you might need to agree to disagree.
No, that's a Julia being difficult. That's all. This is her trying to be difficult. We bind that spirit of difficult. My God. Oh, wow. Lord Jesus. I already answered that question. I'll just do a very brief recap. There will always be people in your profession who choose to do things that are not according to standard. There will always be. Okay. So there's going to be some nurses, there are going to be some doctors who are going to say, I'm not going to take the vaccine. Again, that is their prerogative. However, they cannot deter or even dilute the standard that is set. Those are the people that you have to be very careful of, because if they're willing to not take the vaccine or cut corners on that particular matter, then there are going to be other things where they may do the same thing. Now, am I putting everybody and lumping everybody together in the same boat? I probably am, but you need to be careful of those persons. You can't take your child into a school without that child being vaccinated. Come on now. We got to be careful of some of the things that we allow to tie us up. And here's the issue, and I'm going to bring it back to endurance. Because we spend so much time on some of these things where we allow people to distract us, that's why we can't endure. Endurance requires the ability to stay focused on those things that are that we're able to know what is right versus what is wrong. If you choose to go a different way, that's cool. But let me tell you, if you want to be able to endure, you have to learn how to stay focused enough and don't get pulled away from certain distractions, so that you'll be able to be firm without yielding. So I remain firm, Julia, without yielding in my response.
Y'all agree to disagree. Thank you. Listen, Spirit in Mind, we hope that this has been a blessing to you, that it has on some level equipped you with tools. That's all we want to do, is put, by the grace of God, more tools in your toolkit that will enable you to have life, and life more abundantly, spirit, soul, and body. And so we thank you so very much. And listen, we're going to be writing, both Dr. Shepard and I, we're going to be researching. And would you please, again, feel free to reach out to us. Let us know if there's some subjects you'd like for us to cover, because we'll be developing ideas and strategies for an entirely new season of Spirit in Mind. And so we look forward to hearing from you, even as we are in this hiatus or this sabbatical moment for academic purposes, and to even model to some degree a measure of self-care. And so I leave you with the words of Professor Emeritus taught me in counseling, said some of the most effective and healthy transformations in counseling don't occur in session, but they occur between session as we reflect on what happened in session. And so may your reflections on this first season of Spirit in Mind bring some things that you continue to process. And as the scripture said of Mary, continue to ponder them in your heart. And may they help you to experience the most healthy and positive of transformative growth experiences to the glory of God. That's our closing thing. 1 Thessalonians 5:23. Now may the very God of peace sanctify you completely, entirely, and may your whole spirit, soul, and body, pneuma, suke, and soma, be preserved, kept, is what that translates to mean. And so we look forward to seeing you. Dr. Shepherd?
Yes, thank you, Bishop. I don't have too much else to say. Please enjoy yourselves during this time. Please be safe as you travel. So many more people are traveling now. And just want to know that I pray that God will continue to bless you in every single area of your life. Remember, PCWC, he wants to bless you in your potential, in your ability to cope, your ability to work, and to make a contribution to his community, to our community. Amen.
Thank you. Please continue to keep us in prayer. We look forward to seeing you in the next season of Spirit in Mind.